I want you to picture a career path that starts in the absolute shadows. You're wearing all black. You are literally invisible to the audience at home.
Right.
Your job, your entire existence in that moment, is to make sure the set doesn't physically collapse while the news anchor reads the teleprompter. You are a stagehand.
The bottom rung of the ladder. But also, the most critical rung if you don't want the lights to fall on someone's head.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now, fast forward 50 years. You aren't moving the furniture anymore.
Yeah.
You aren't winding cables.
No.
You're running the network. You've negotiated deals in boardrooms from New York to Los Angeles. You've launched channels, and you've managed the P&L for entire television stations.
It's the classic mailroom to the boardroom narrative, but specifically in the high-stakes, high-burnout world of American broadcast television. And that is a world that chews people up and spits them out.
It really is. And today, we are unpacking the career of Matthew L. Mixon. And when I say unpacking, I don't just mean reading his LinkedIn.
No.
We have a comprehensive professional profile here, his full career history, and some really fascinating details about his recent work. Our mission today is to figure out how someone builds a do-it-all career,
Right.
spanning production, sales, executive leadership, and community activism, and actually survives the industry for half a century.
That survival part is so key. You have to realize the media landscape has changed, 5 or 6 times since Mixon started? He began in the era of heavy tape decks and limited channels, and he's still operating now.
In the streaming era.
In the era of streaming and digital content. To stay relevant that long requires a very specific type of adaptability.
So we've got a lot of ground to cover. We're going to look at the technical foundation, the geography of his success, which is just extensive, and finally, this really interesting full-circle moment where he returns to his roots.
It's a case study in skill acquisition. It's about how you gather tools over decades and then eventually decide how you actually want to use them.
Let's start at the very beginning, the origin story. We are in Milwaukee. The station is WITI-TV6.
A classic station.
And young Matthew Mixon is on the floor. He starts as a stagehand. Now, help us understand the hierarchy here. For people who just watch TV and see the polished product, what does a stagehand actually do?
It's physically demanding work. It is blue-collar work in what's mostly a white-collar industry. You're managing cables, you're moving cameras that weigh a ton, you're changing lighting setups during commercial breaks.
A lot of pressure.
A lot. But here's the thing. It is the absolute best place to learn the anatomy of a broadcast.
Why is that?
Because you are the fly on the wall. You hear everything. You hear the director screaming in the headset because a shot is late. You see which camera angles work and which ones, look terrible. You see the chaos behind the polish.
Things you'd never see from the corner office.
Never. If you start as an executive, you never see that. If you start as a stagehand, you know exactly how the sausage is made.
And Mixon clearly paid attention because he didn't stay a stagehand. He moved up to become a television director. That feels like a massive jump to me.
It does.
You go from moving props to calling the shots.
It sounds like a jump, but it's actually a very traditional, organic pathway, or at least it used to be. Because he started on the floor, by the time he sat in the director's chair, he understood the physical limitations of the studio.
Right. He knows what's actually possible.
Exactly. A director who comes out of film school might ask for a swooping crane shot that physically cannot happen in the 3 seconds you have before the commercial break. A director who is a stagehand knows exactly how long it takes to move camera 2. He knows the rhythm.
So he had that boots-on-the-ground credibility. He wasn't just asking for things. He knew the effort it took to execute them.
Precisely. And he took that credibility to some serious players. I was looking at his early resume, and 2 names jumped out at me immediately.
Which ones?
Group W Television and ABC owned and operated WXYZ in Detroit.
Group W is legendary, right? Even I've heard of that.
Legendary is absolutely the right word. Group W was Westinghouse Broadcasting. In the 70s and 80s, before cable really fragmented everything, Group W was a powerhouse of syndication and local programming.
So they made their own shows?
They made their own stuff. They were innovators.
And then WXYZ in Detroit.
Well, Detroit in that era was a top market news battleground. WXYZ was a heavily resourced, high-pressure environment. If you were directing there, you were operating at a network standard. This wasn't small-town TV where you could make a few mistakes.
No room for error.
None. So very early in his career, Mixon established a technical foundation that was just rock solid. He proved he could handle the pressure of live, high-stakes television.
Okay, so let's pause and look at the profile so far.
Mhm.
He's a director, he's creative, he's technical. Usually that's where the story stays, right?
For a lot of people, yes.
You become a senior director, maybe an executive producer, and you ride that out.
Hmm.
But Mixon's map just explodes. And this is part 2 of our deep dive, the geography of success.
The map is wild.
I want to read this list of markets because it really paints a picture of his life. We start in Milwaukee,
Okay.
then St. Louis, Pittsburgh, Detroit, Boston, Hartford, New York, Washington, D.C., Sonoma County, California, Los Angeles, Little Rock, and finally back to Milwaukee.
Wow. That is a lot of U-Hauls. That is a lot of, hello, I'm the new guy.
It is.
But in the context of the industry, this nomadic lifestyle tells us something very specific. He didn't just stay in production. This travel log is the hallmark of a successful sales and syndication executive.
Explain that pivot. Why does moving into sales require you to bounce around the country like that?
Because you go where the markets are or you're assigned to manage specific territories. In the industry, we call them DMA, designated market areas. So New York is DMA 1, Los Angeles is DMA 2, Hartford might be DMA 30-something. When you shift from directing, which is usually a station-based job, to sales and affiliate relations, you are chasing growth and territory.
And the sources confirm this transition. We see roles shifting from director to account executive and eventually director of affiliate relations.
That is the critical aha moment of his career path.
Yeah.
And I cannot stress this enough. In media, there is often a massive wall, like the Berlin Wall between church and state.
Church and state. I assume we aren't talking about religion.
No, we're talking about the internal culture of a TV station. The church is the news and creative side.
Okay.
They care about the story, the shot, the journalism. The state is the business side. Sales, ad revenue, sponsorships.
And I'm guessing they don't always get along.
They almost never get along. Creatives think salespeople are empty suits who would sell their grandmother for a commercial break. Salespeople think creatives are money pits who don't understand that, electricity costs money.
A classic rivalry.
Precisely. But Mixon hopped the wall. He became a hybrid. Because he had been a director, he could walk into a client meeting and speak both languages. He could tell a client, I can sell this spot for you, but he also knew exactly what it took to produce that spot.
That's a massive competitive advantage.
It makes him dangerous in a good way.
Yeah.
He's not just selling airtime, he's selling a solution he understands technically. And we see this playing out in the late 90s. He was the director of affiliate relations at a company called Brass Ring, Inc. in the Boston area.
Affiliate relations sounds like some serious corporate jargon. What does that actually mean day to day?
It's high-level diplomacy. If you work for a network or a syndicator, affiliate relations means you are the person convincing local TV stations across the country to carry your shows.
Oh.
You are negotiating carriage agreements, clearance times, like getting a show on at 4 p.m. instead of 2 a.m. and managing the whole relationship.
So that explains the network of contacts. You don't get that job without knowing people in every major city.
Exactly. You need charm, you need business savvy, and you need to know who the decision makers are in St. Louis and D.C., in New York. Hence the map we just looked at. He was building a human infrastructure.
It's interesting to see him at Brass Ring and then Creative Intellect in the late 90s, early 2000s. That was the dot-com boom.
Right.
It seems like he was positioning himself right at the intersection of traditional media and this emerging corporate video world.
Yeah, he wasn't static. He saw where the industry was going. But what I find most compelling is that he didn't just stay in that corporate sales lane forever. He eventually combined the church and the state to actually run things.
Which brings us to part 3, leadership and niche networks. This is where he hits the executive peak. We see him landing in Little Rock, Arkansas. Now, that might seem random after New York and L.A., but he was the general manager.
The GM role is the throne. As a general manager, you aren't just worried about the cameras or just worried about the sales team. You are worried about everything. The P&L stops with you. HR stops with you. The FCC license stops with you.
And he wasn't just running a standard local affiliate. He was running the flagship station for the Soul of the South network.
This is a crucial detail. Soul of the South launched around 2013. This represents a shift in the industry toward what we call diginets or digital subchannels, and specifically niche targeting.
Bring that down for us. What's the significance of that network?
Well, Soul of the South was an African-American targeted television network. It wasn't trying to be ABC or NBC, appealing to everyone and no one. It was trying to serve a specific, underrepresented demographic.
With content tailored for them.
Exactly, with news, dramas, and culture. So Mixon is using all that general market experience from the big players like Group W and applying it to a mission-driven network.
And the sources suggest he wasn't just a suit counting the beans. He got his hands dirty in production again. He's listed as the co-executive producer for The Janus Adams Show.
Yes. And look at the themes of that show: race, culture, and courage.
That's heavy lifting. That's not just entertainment.
It is, and this is where the hybrid career really pays off. If you have a show about race and culture, you need to handle it with sensitivity. That's the producer in him. But you also need to ensure it's viable as a product, that it can find an audience and advertisers. That's the sales executive in him.
He's leveraging his whole background
To get meaningful content on the air, not just fluff.
The profile also mentions he was a Los Angeles-based producer for a while, so he's got the Hollywood credential too.
Which just adds another layer of legitimacy. In LA, the competition is fierce. If you are producing there, you are dealing with unions, talent agents, expensive locations. It just validates that his skills weren't just regional, they were national caliber.
So let's recap where we are. We have a 50-year veteran. He's been a stagehand, a director, a sales exec, a GM, and a producer. He's lived on both coasts.
The whole 9 yards.
He's worked in general market news and niche black media. Most people would probably retire to a golf course in Florida at this point.
You would think. Pack it up, collect the pension, play 18 holes.
But this is where the story takes its most interesting turn, in my opinion. Part 4. The full circle. Matthew Mixon goes home.
He moves back to Milwaukee.
And he doesn't go back to sit on the porch. He creates the Mixon Media Group. He becomes an owner-operator. But more importantly, he becomes a teacher.
Yes. He's listed as an instructor at the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee School of Continuing Education.
There is something so poetic about that.
I was thinking the same thing. Think about it. He started in Milwaukee at WITI TV6, learning the ropes as a kid, physically pulling cables, and now he is in the same city, teaching the next generation how to pull those ropes. He is passing the torch.
It suggests that he views his knowledge not just as a proprietary asset to sell, but as a community resource to share.
Which is a rare mindset in the corporate world. Often people hoard their connections and their secret sauce because they are afraid of being replaced. Mixon is giving it away.
And speaking of community resources, this is the part of the research that really stood out to me. We have a specific source detailing his work over the last 10 years with an organization called Souls to the Polls.
This is critical. Souls to the Polls, or STTP. This is a shift away from corporate TV entirely. This is grassroots civic engagement.
The source says he has been producing video content highlighting their events, forums, rallies, sometimes protests.
Let's connect the dots here, because this isn't just volunteering. This is the application of a professional skill. Think about the skill set required to produce a smooth, high-quality broadcast of a chaotic protest or a passionate rally.
It's not easy. The lighting is bad. The sound is unpredictable. People are moving everywhere. It's a nightmare to film.
Exactly. You need to know where to put the camera to catch the action without getting in the way. That's the director in him from the 70s.
Right.
You need to know how to edit it to tell a coherent story that moves people. That's the producer in him.
Yeah.
And you need to know how to package it so people actually watch it. That's the sales and affiliate relations guy.
It's incredible when you think about it. He spent decades honing these high-level skills for ABC, for Group W, for profit-driven networks. And now he's applying that same high-level production value to local democracy in Milwaukee.
It creates a powerful legitimacy for the organization. In our modern world, if it isn't on video, it didn't happen. And if the video looks amateur, the movement can look amateur.
That's a great point.
By giving souls to the polls, the visual language of network television, Mixon is elevating their message. He is documenting history as it happens in his own backyard, with a professional eye.
It's a far cry from the nomadic executive life, isn't it?
Yeah.
He's not chasing the next DMA or the next bonus check.
No, he's digging in where he lives, and that might be the ultimate lesson of his career. We often judge a media career by the size of the audience. Oh, he reached millions of viewers nationally. But here, Mixon's just showing that the value of the career is how you apply it to the things you actually care about.
He's using the tool of media to amplify local voices. Whether it's a forum or a protest, he's there ensuring it's seen.
And doing it with the discipline of a 50-year veteran. A lot of people can hold up a cell phone at a rally and stream to Facebook. That's fine. But to produce content, to curate the message, to make it look like television, that takes a pro. And he's doing it for his neighbors.
It's interesting looking at the whole profile. He never really stopped being that guy in the shadows, making things work.
That's the thread.
Even as a GM or a producer, the goal was always to put something on the screen.
That's it. Whether he was moving a prop at TV6 or negotiating a contract in New York or filming a voter drive in Milwaukee, the goal is always get the message out. Make it look good. Make sure people see it.
So what does this all mean for us? We've looked at the map. We've looked at the titles. We've looked at the 50-year timeline.
I think the so what here is redefining what success looks like in the media industry.
Go on. How so?
We are trained to think success is vertical. You climb the ladder, you become the CEO of a major conglomerate, and you stay there. But Mixon's path suggests that success is actually about lateral adaptability and the accumulation of diverse skills.
It's the breadth, not just the height.
Right. He didn't limit himself. If he had stayed a director, he would have had a fine career. If he'd stayed in sales, he would have made good money. But by doing both, and then adding leadership and education, he became a complete media ecosystem unto himself.
And that versatility is what allowed him to pivot to nonprofit work and education later in life. If he was just a suit, he couldn't teach production. If he was just a techie, he couldn't run a business.
Precisely. He built a toolbox that allowed him to be useful in any room he walked into. And that is a very secure place to be in an insecure industry.
It really makes you think about your own career trajectory. We spend so much time climbing ladders, trying to get to that next rung, that next city, that bigger title. But Matthew Mixon's story asks a different question.
It certainly does.
It asks, at the end of the day, when you've learned everything there is to learn, who are you going to teach? And when you've built a massive network of contacts across the country, are you willing to use those skills to help your neighbor be heard?
That is the question. Is the ultimate value of your career the network you build or the neighborhood you return to?
Something to chew on. That's it for this deep dive into the life and times of Matthew L. Mixon, a stagehand, a station chief, and a storyteller for his community. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you on the next one.